with new Hyundais with America's best warranty and 3 years of maintenance.
Talk to me, Terry Lambert, at Terry Lambert Hyundai.
The First Alert team, the best in Georgia. Live from Augusta, you're watching News 12, live at 5.
The Marshal's office is stepping up to help keep Augusta clean, where they're setting their focus on in just a few minutes.
But first, we begin in Atlanta, where it's the last day of the legislative session, also known as Sign or Die Day.
The only thing that state lawmakers are legally required to pass is the state budget. But as of right now, that has not been done. Our State House reporter Abby Kasouras joins us now live at the state capitol with what's happening with the state budget. Abby, what is causing the holdup?
We're right outside of the Senate chambers right now, waiting for the bill to be brought up. The state's budget, about $36 billion. The House and the Senate arguing over $300 million, which seems like a small bit in comparison. They have to get in sync over the next 7 hours before that midnight deadline, and we're still waiting to see when that'll happen. Now, the Senate, they say that they want more money for literacy awareness, more funding for the Department of Corrections in order to invest in infrastructure, make sure there's no cell phone signal in jails. The House, they want to boost judge pay, funding a controversial measure for teachers to get paid more to carry a gun in school.
I think Georgia families care as much about our budget, they care about their budget. And the less we spend, the more we can return to them. You're going to see that investment over and over again this year, whether it be tax cuts that we're trying to pass, not for corporate interests, but for individuals. That's why we don't really support a lot of corporate tax cuts. But folks sitting at the kitchen table, they care about the top end rate. They care about what daycare is costing them. We're investing heavily in moving our CAPS programs to be able to help them there.
There are several issues that they are seeing eye to eye on, including teacher pay raises, additional state employee pay raises, historic funding for mental health programs as well. The Senate and the House, both with 100 bills on their calendars each, plan to be here well into midnight following those bills. When they're brought up, we'll be sure to let you know. In Atlanta, Abby Kasouras on your side.
All right, thanks for that, Abby. The clock is ticking.
Absolutely. A lot of important bills on the line here. Thanks, Abby, for keeping us updated. Switching gears to weather now as we take a look at that weekend for you in just about 10 minutes.
All right, thanks for that, Riley. South Carolina's racially gerrymandered congressional map will remain in place for the 2024 elections. A 3-judge court issued this order today, more than a year after they unanimously found a district was designed with a discriminatory purpose. The South Carolina legislature appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court, and oral arguments were heard last October. Federal judges are letting this current map stay because a new map is still being challenged, and it's not likely to be done in time for absentee ballot deadlines in late April. A decision by the Supreme Court is still pending.
Another arrest has been made in the 2009 kidnapping, rape, and murder of 17-year-old Brittany Drexel in Charleston. Now, 56-year-old Angel Voss is a longtime girlfriend of Raymond Moody, who confessed to killing Drexel in 2022. Now she's facing charges over accusations that she lied to the FBI over her and Moody's involvement. Voss reportedly lied about how her phone disappeared during Brittany's kidnapping, as well as her testimony about the murder timeline. Attorneys say Voss's new federal charges come down to several investigators not giving up on this case.
Brittany was abducted 15 years ago, almost. Obviously, reconstructing some of the timeline, some of the forensic data is time-consuming and more difficult when it's stale. And so that would be just really good investigative work, but it took some time.
If Voss is convicted, she could spend 5 years in prison and pay up to a $250,000 fine. There's no set date for when she's due back in court.
Keeping Augusta clean, that is a full-time job, but it's often the job of unpaid volunteers to keep it that way. Inmate cleaning crews used to be a big part of this effort, but since the pandemic, these crews have been significantly reduced.
But the issue of cleanliness remains. The Marshal's office is now working to help pick up some of that slack around the city. City Hood is live at 5 off of Washington Road in Sydney. You went on a ride along with the Marshal's office to see some of these problem areas for yourself. Walk us through what you saw today.
Well, when most of us think of blight and homelessness, most of our focus tends to shift to Washington Road, especially with the Sheriff's Office latest initiative to clean up the homelessness here. But it's not just an issue here, it's all across the city. The video you are looking at now is from an illegal dump near Old Savannah Road. It's one of the many places we went to today with the marshal. They see issues like every day, and it's not just illegal dumping, it's not just homeless camps, it's not just trash, it's all of those things combined.
They're community issues. They're not just government problems. They're community issues. The effects are extreme for the community. I mean, when you have blight in an area, it affects property values. Property values affect property taxes. All those things are very impactful. So it's extremely paramount to bring the community into the problem-solving process.
And a big thing the Marshal's Office wants to stress to you is reporting whenever you see these issues across the city. And coming up all new tonight on News 12 at 6 o'clock, why the Marshal's Office says cleaning up the city is truly a community effort.
And we can see how big these camps really get. We saw that report from you earlier this week, Sydney, where that was considered a small camp. These can get very large, and it can even tie up first responders. Even today, the Augusta Fire Department, I don't know if anyone saw that, but they said that they put out a fire at a homeless encampment earlier this morning, so it ties up resources all across the city. So a major issue that needs to be addressed for sure.
And it looks like they're starting at least to make some headway. Thanks for that, Sydney. 2 protesters are accused of tethering themselves to construction equipment in Atlanta. Authorities say this is tied to the Stop Cop City protests, those against the construction of Atlanta's Safety Training Center. A construction worker reported seeing 2 protesters scaling a 250-foot crane early yesterday morning. The construction site is operated by a contractor for the training center. Rescue crews had to cut through wire and PVC pipe the protesters used to attach themselves to that crane.
When you do this in a manner that places yourself in danger and others in harm, that is a crime and they will be charged accordingly.
A protester was killed after he opened fire on authorities at that development site last January. Since then, the issue has only become more heated, with protesters accused of arson attacks and other types of disruptive protests.
You're taking a live look here, live at 5 over Baltimore, where the remnants of the Francis Scott Key Bridge are still in the water there, along with the cargo ship that brought it down early Tuesday morning. Massive barges with cranes are on their way to begin the massive task of clearing that wreckage. Now, since the bridge collapsed, many in the South have turned their attention to bridges closer to home, wondering if something similar could happen here. Charleston has the Ravenel Bridge and the Don Holt Bridge, both spanning over one of the busiest ports on the East Coast. South Carolina's Department of Transportation says there is an elaborate system of protection in place on the Ravenel and is designed to withstand a high-level impact, including the loss of cables. State Departments of Transportation also inspect bridges routinely and give them a score. Just ahead in the next half hour, Savannah's iconic Talmadge Bridge is under some scrutiny following its inspection.
U.S. Customs sees some pretty crazy stuff every day. Just ahead, we take a closer look at what's been caught at the world's busiest airport. Riley?
Well, we do have a cold night up ahead, potentially seeing some 30s by tomorrow morning on the full forecast next. But we're going to continue to watch that as we continue past the weekend. Quick look at that 7 days. Beautiful weather through Sunday and just a few more clouds showing up by Monday.
Thanks, Riley. Live at 5, you're taking a look over the busiest airport in the world, Hartsfield-Jackson International in Atlanta. And with it being the busiest in the world, you just know that some strange and illegal stuff rolls through there every single day. Tori Cooper tagged along with the U.S. Customs and Border Protection agent to see just what they come across.
One of the world's busiest borders and points of entry for international travelers is right here at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport.
We're at the moment have a 23% increase from last year.
Carlos Cortina is a U.S. Customs and Border Protection agent at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. He says seeing people from all around the world is captivating, but what's in their bags is even more interesting.
We've seen a full monkey head in a bag before. Not cleaned, still fresh.
On a daily basis, it's a mystery of what they will find. Hundreds of pounds of food, plants, drugs, and other prohibited items are intercepted when travelers forget to declare it. Agents like Carlos seize it and scrap it. Today's spread included coconuts, mangoes, and even goat meat.
One of the weirdest things is it honestly is a snail.
But it was not just any snail. It was one of the most damaging snails in the world. The giant African snail consumes at least 500 types of plants and threatens tropical environments. Lucky for us, agents stopped it in its tracks. But this is just the back half of the job. The front half is getting through the lines. And the feds say they have ways to get you through faster.
Can be very busy on a Friday or a Saturday, but in an effort to expedite this process, to make it easier on you and your family, if you have a trip planned this summer, this is a program you should know about. It's not new, but certainly will help you out. It's called the Global Entry Trusted Traveler Program. You step up, takes a picture of your face, it identifies you. For me, it's going to say, please wait and provide some travel documentation. I'm not traveling today, but for you, you'd get this green arrow because they would already have your passport and your driver's license or any other identification that you shared with them previously during your travel. And that way, you'll be on your way after you check in with an officer.
It's a pretty easy process once you apply.
Postage stamp scams might not sound like a big deal, but they're having a huge impact on post offices nationwide. Just ahead, how you can avoid falling victim.
Only the finest in men's clothing.
The U.S. Postal Service says they're seeing a rise in counterfeit postage stamps across the country.
That's right. Our consumer investigator, Carice Jackman, spoke with the federal law enforcement arm of the USPS and a woman who says she's concerned about how this postage scam is impacting post offices nationwide.
If there's one person who cares about the success of the post office, it's Madeline Austin.
They have been struggling and they're working, the postal workers are working so hard. And I mean, how can it possibly survive this kind of scam?
What she's talking about is bogus postal stamps being sold online.
Usually, at least every other time that I was on Facebook, I would notice these ads coming up. You can buy discontinued stamps at a lesser price. Click here.
Austin says the stamps look so much like the real deal.
A lot of people would go out of their way to buy the stamps. And I don't know what the answer is, but I do think it needs to be investigated thoroughly, and the public needs to be aware.
It didn't take our team long to find stamps being sold online. After a quick search on Facebook, we noticed several groups advertising postage stamps.
We've seen large discounts of up to 50% offered on some of these fraudulent listings. That is a big red flag.
Michael Martell is a U.S. Postal Inspector at the Postal Inspection Service in Washington, D.C. They're the law enforcement and security arm of the Postal Service.
That is the postage that she received.
We showed him the counterfeit postage stamps Madeline Austin told us about.
Counterfeit stamps, as you can see here, they come in a variety of colors and designs, and these aren't coming from the United States. The quality of these counterfeits has increased drastically in the past few years. These are, of course, coming from overseas nations where intellectual property laws aren't enforced.
Martell says with new changes to the domestic mail manual, items you mail with a counterfeit postage will be considered abandoned and are subject to being opened and disposed of. And if you're one of the bad actors selling these postage stamps, you could face jail time.
You could actually face a penalty of up to 5 years imprisonment for those crimes.
The Postal Inspection Service also has a mailbox set up for you to go to if you want to report this fraud.
For those who may say they're just stamps, who cares? It's no big deal. What would you say to that?
I disagree. There are over 600,000 postal employees and the organization in general who rely on that postage revenue to operate and serve the American people.
Austin wants post offices nationwide to place signs up warning people about this scam, and for people on the internet to think twice before purchasing these fake stamps. With this watching your wallet, I'm Carice Jackman.
USPS says make sure your postage is legitimate and always purchase from them or an authorized retailer.
All right, it is Thursday, so congratulations to our latest Sunshade winner, sponsored by Plunkett Heating and Air. Congratulations to Patricia Cifuentes from Graniteville. All you have to do to win your sunshade is go to WRDW.com, and we're making sure that's under our contest tab. I'm going to look at that forecast for you just after the break.
Call 1-800-622-2774 for your free information and your free gift. That's 1-800-622-2774. 1-800-622-2774. Call now.
At the CBS Evening News, we focus on solutions, finding solutions to healthcare problems, how much money we can spend on groceries, finding solutions to help people understand what are the right choices to make for you and your family.
During the Rooms to Go anniversary, queen size mattress. 3 great brands, 1 low price. Only at Rooms to Go.
Trust Chief Meteorologist Riley Hale for your first alert. You're watching News 12 live at 5. Continues.
Right now, the U.S. unemployment rate for civilians sits at around 4% or so, but for military spouses, it's more than 5 times higher at 21%.
A special hiring event today at Fort Eisenhower is looking to help these military spouses get connected with resources and potential employers. Nick Dillon breaks down why this is so important for our military families.
30 employers and more than 100 military spouses are roaming, talking, and searching for opportunities throughout our area. The military jumps from base to base and fort to fort. With many different jumps, being with a military member can be a challenge. But employers gathered at Fort Eisenhower to give this population a step towards employment. Jessica Zirin has been a military spouse for more than 15 years. She's been trying to find the best fit for her when it comes to a longer-term job and flexible with the military spouse lifestyle. And she came today to look for just that.
Something like that is absolutely critical to ensuring that there are options and opportunities available that might not be there. I think that when you get everybody in a room like this collaboratively, it presents you with options that may not have initially been on your mind.
I constantly am amazed at the skills they bring to the table, volunteer experience, how they're always willing to do more for not just themselves but for others. It seems like all military spouses always want to help other people and think about other people other than themselves.
And coming up all new on News 12 at 6 o'clock, I'll have more on how events like these are game changers on the base. On Fort Eisenhower, Nick Veland, on your side.
All right, thanks, Nick. Switching gears to weather now as we check 10 minutes.
All right, thank you, Riley. 2 murder suspects are on the loose after a deadly shooting outside North Augusta. Around this time yesterday, authorities say 32-year-old Tavares Burley was shot and killed on Old Aiken Road. Now, investigators have identified 2 suspects, 23-year-old Stephon Dunbar and 29-year-old Charlotte Hayes. A witness told deputies they say they saw Dunbar exit a residence and then start shooting at Burley. Then he's believed to have driven away from the scene with a woman. Both Dunbar and Hayes should be considered armed. If you know where they might be, call the Aiken County Sheriff's Office. You can remain anonymous.
The old Coordinates Health Respite Center on Broad Street could turn into low-income housing for people with disabilities. The Homelessness Task Force tells us there is a population that needs more accessibility that shelters sometimes can't offer. We're working to learn more about a possible timeline for this project. If your commute takes you across the Savannah River Bridge, listen up. Tonight, starting at 10 p.m., there will be alternating lane closures on both the eastbound and westbound lanes for repair work. Everything should be wrapped up by 7 tomorrow morning. The shoulders of I-20 might also be impacted by this work, so take extra care if you're driving on the bridge anytime tonight or early tomorrow morning.
Getting our students involved in the community, that is the goal of the Innovative Pitch competition. Today, students from Augusta University came up with ideas that address local issues in Augusta, and they did so in front of a panel of judges. 40 groups each had 5 minutes to pitch their ideas to tackle things like homelessness, food deserts, and other community issues.
I love your ideas. I love everybody's ideas. They were so good. And it's just crazy how what, a group of students can do and they can innovate something that's totally, huge.
All right, if if you didn't hear that, she was talking about how she loved everybody's idea and how all of these students are helping to solve potentially huge problems in our area. The winners get to move their ideas forward, get patenting and funding. They also go on to benefit our community, which is a win-win-win, right? All new on News 12 at 6 o'clock, our Hallie Turner shows us the great ideas that these students pitched.
Critics of a bill just passed today at the State House say they fear South Carolina's college campuses will become whitewashed if it becomes law.
But supporters of this effort say it's intended to ensure students and staff are treated equally and based on merit. State House reporter Mary Green has those details.
This legislation targets efforts aimed at promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, at South Carolina's public colleges and universities. These programs have become a target in recent years in red states, including now here in South Carolina.
What we're trying to stop is preferential treatment based on group identity. We're trying to make sure that the playing field stays level.
This bill would ban mandatory diversity training for faculty and staff at South Carolina's public colleges and universities and prohibit diversity statements in their admissions and employment decisions. It would also require schools submit an annual report on their DEI programs, including operating costs and how many people these programs employ, along with any complaints they've gotten. Supporters claim this is about promoting equality and merit on college campuses and protecting diversity of viewpoints. But opponents argue existing DEI efforts don't give certain groups special treatment, but instead work to ensure they don't continue to face barriers in higher education.
DEI is not about giving handouts or taking away from deserving individuals. It's about leveling that playing field, providing necessary resources, and acknowledging the historical inequalities that continue to shape our society today.
The House passed this bill along party lines Thursday, and it now moves over to the Senate, where its future is unclear. Reporting from the State House, I'm Mary Green.
This push comes less than a year after the U.S. Supreme Court ended affirmative action in higher education. That now prohibits colleges and universities from considering race as one of many factors in student admissions.
Farmers in Columbia and Lincoln counties can now qualify for emergency loans due to extreme drought. The U.S. Department of Agriculture declared 17 Georgia counties as primary disaster areas, plus more than 15 contiguous counties, including Lincoln and Columbia. Producers have until November 25th to apply for emergency loans from the Farm Service Agency.
Baltimore's Key Bridge collapse is raising questions tonight as to how other structures would hold up to a similar disaster. Still ahead, how a major Georgia landmark is measuring up. Riley?
Well, we are going to see some warm afternoons heading into the weekend, but still some chilly nights in store. We'll have that full forecast next. We'll stick around early next week, but you can see, unfortunately, not quite as much sunshine by Monday and Tuesday. Doesn't look like those clouds will produce any rainfall early next week until we most likely get to Wednesday. So the reason for the dry weather through the weekend is just high pressure across the region. So this creates sinking air and brings us a lot of sunshine. So that is going to be what brings us the nice weather through Sunday. We'll see the cloud cover ahead of this system Monday, Tuesday next week, and then by around Wednesday, that's when this front is timed out to show up and could bring us some rainfall. Right now, the timing will kind of impact if we do see a thunderstorm risk from this. So that's kind of the next thing that's on our horizon that we're looking at on the 7-day forecast. But no weather concerns really through the weekend. We're going to see lots of sun and temperatures getting back above average, and we're just going to have to watch that rainfall show up next Wednesday.
All right, thanks, Riley. Live at 5, you're looking at the wreckage that remains of the Francis Scott Key Bridge after it collapsed on Tuesday in Baltimore. This collapse is bringing a new focus to our own bridges in the South, including Savannah's Talmadge Bridge.
The State Department of Transportation inspects bridges regularly, but there are some concerns regarding the Talmadge, which is also the entrance to a busy port like Baltimore. Flynn Snyder explains.
It's an iconic Savannah landmark and serves as an entrance for large cargo ships into one of the country's busiest ports. At 185 feet of clearance and an average of 20,000 car crossings a day, the Georgia Department of Transportation's February 2024 inspection report says the Talmadge Bridge is in satisfactory condition. It scored a 6 out of 9 on the National Bridge Inspector Scale, meaning there are some minor problems. The report notes there were not any critical deficiencies, but found inspectors did find evidence of excessive cable vibration and cracks in guide pipes. They say these findings require some action within 6 to 12 months.
When we calculate the probability to that an accident like this will occur, it's extremely low. It's extremely low.
Georgia Southern University engineering professor Dr. Gustavo Maldonado points out crucial support structures on Baltimore's Francis Scott Key Bridge were located in the water. He says that's a distinct difference to the Talmadge Bridge and lowers the chance of a similar situation happening in the Savannah River.
The main columns of the bridge are on the ground, are not on the river. They are close to the river, they are close to the margin of the river, but they are not on the water.
Well, following this incident, we're hearing from the Georgia Ports Authority. They say the Talmadge Bridge does not have any support columns in the federal shipping channel. Savannah River pilots handle 45 ships a week and 2,000 ships in fiscal year 2023. They use daylight-only transit whenever there is a first call for a new ship into the port.
For the future, GDOT has announced a maintenance plan for the 33-year-old Talmadge Bridge, where it will replace existing cables and possibly increase the height to accommodate larger ships.
You also reduce the probability that the very tall bridge will hit the deck of the bridge.
Georgia DOT released a statement following the Baltimore incident saying they are awaiting answers from investigators on the official cause of the collapse.
It's about to get a lot easier for consumers to shop for a new smartphone plan, find out exactly how much they're paying, what they're paying for, and for how long. I'm Jamie Tucker. I'll explain coming up.
First Alert Radar, powered by Jim Hudson Automotive Group.
Shanty can
Fix it.
The FCC is about to set up new requirements for all wireless carriers to be more upfront about the plans they offer to their customers.
And as our consumer tech reporter Jamie Tucker explains, this could help you save money.
What the Tech, sponsored by Augusta Preparatory Day School.
You know, we've all experienced it, shopping for a new phone plan online or walking into a store. It's very confusing. You don't really know what you're paying each month. Well, now the government is requiring wireless companies to put labels on their phone plan.
The FCC a few years back came up with this idea of coming up with a way for consumers to more easily be able to digest the information.
Verizon's Steve Van Dittner tells me the new labels are familiar to consumers since they look like the nutritional labels on grocery items. Easy to read, easy to comprehend.
You're going to see at the top what the monthly price is, and then as you go down, you're going to see if there's any additional charges and terms that are required.
Verizon is using the labels ahead of the FCC's April deadline. You'll see them on Verizon's website, and in stores, each representative has a tablet to display the labels to help consumers decide on a plan. Now, consumers often see a plan price and then are shocked to find out it was just an introductory price. The broadband labels spell out those terms.
That $80 a month that you saw, and then if you see any additional taxes and fees, that's the most that you'll ever see on your bill because it doesn't include those discounts. So you'll see the discounts in this section, and that'll be subtracted off of that top piece.
And another key part of the broadband labels is information about upload and download speeds that you should be getting with the plan.
But what you can do then is take these labels side by side with any provider that you're looking to perhaps do business with and see exactly, again, what you're getting for what you're paying.
And if you don't see those broadband labels clearly displayed at the point of sale, whether that's online or in stores, you're asked to contact the FCC. That wireless company is breaking the law come April 10th. That's What the Tech. I'm Jamie Tucker.
The April 10th deadline is for the largest providers like Verizon, T-Mobile, and AT&T. Wireless providers with fewer than 100,000 customers have until October 10th to make the labels available.
March Madness is heating.
Lines now. That's 999-9999.
An elementary school janitor in Zebulon, Georgia is getting quite the birthday surprise. Actually, it happened yesterday. Hayes Mabry Jr. turned 85 years young, but the students at Pike County Elementary School Call him Grandpa.
Students and teachers surprised him with a mural, and he was also surprised yesterday with a proclamation by the city naming March 27th as Hayes Maubrey Junior Day. Hundreds of students lined the halls to give him a high five or a hug, thanking him for his work over the past 18 years at the school, and of course wishing him a happy birthday.
He's just a light. He's a light to each student. He's a light to each person.
Love this. When asked what the celebration meant to him, he said simply that he treats people the same way he would like to be treated.
Good way to live there. And a quick heads up, due to March Madness, we'll be airing Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy tonight and tomorrow night on channel 12.3. They'll still air at their normal times of 7 and 7:30, respectively. Riley?
Yeah, that 12.3 is My Network TV, so it looks like the My TV icon, so hopefully I can find that later tonight. Here's a live look at SRP Park, where we do have Augusta Prep taking on Westminster, and they just got this underway about 20 minutes ago, so they are going to see great weather out there on the Savannah River for the next several hours. Temperatures are still close to 70. It's kind of breezy still. We have had some gusty winds at times today, but that wind will taper off as we continue past sunset. If you're heading out this evening, temperatures will fall into the 60s and 50s as we head past sunset through around 10 o'clock. But as we get into the overnight hours, that's when we're expecting temperatures to most likely bottom out into the low 40s. Wouldn't even be surprised if maybe some spots briefly hit the upper 30s. Tomorrow afternoon, though, we're expecting plenty of sun. That wind direction will change out of the west and stay generally between 5 to 10. Maybe just a few passing clouds early Saturday morning, but back to sunny skies for the afternoon. Those temperatures will continue warming up through the weekend. Upper 70s by Saturday, then low 80s on Sunday for the Easter plans. Next week, we are tracking our next chance for rain to show up Wednesday.
All right, thanks, Riley. Stick with us. We have more news, weather, and sports coming up after a short break on News 12 at 6 o'clock.